The briefing room smelled of recycled air and stale coffee. Ji Woo walked in quietly, carrying her datapad against her chest. She was small, barely reaching 5 feet tall, with short black hair and a face that looked too young for a military uniform. The other soldiers in the room turned to look at her. Some smiled. Others whispered to each other. She found an empty seat at the back and sat down without saying anything. This was her 3rd day with the 7th Fleet, and already she knew what they thought of her. The whispers were not quiet enough. The looks were not subtle enough. Captain Hyen Woo stood at the front of the room. He was a tall man with gray hair and scars on his face from 20 years of combat. He activated the holographic display, showing star maps and enemy positions. The Valthrex Empire had been pushing deeper into human space for 3 years now. 17 colonies had fallen. Millions were dead. Hyen Woo explained the patrol routes for the week. His voice was steady and professional. When he assigned positions, he barely looked at Ji Woo. She would be on rear guard duty, monitoring sensors while the real fighters went ahead. It was the assignment given to people who could not be trusted with anything important. Sergeant Tae Young, a muscular man with arms covered in tattoos, leaned back in his chair. He spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "Captain, with respect, why did Command send us a child? We need fighters, not academy students who only know theory." A few others laughed. Hyen Woo raised his hand for silence, but his expression showed he partly agreed. Lieutenant Ji Woo graduated at the top of her tactical class. "Command thinks she can help us. Help us die faster, maybe," someone muttered from the corner. More laughter. Ji Woo kept her eyes on her datapad. She had learned not to react. Words only hurt if you let them. She had survived worse than mockery. Much worse. The meeting continued. Hyen Woo showed footage of recent Valthrex attacks. The aliens were massive creatures, standing 8 feet tall with 4 arms and thick armored skin. Their ships were faster and better armed than human vessels. Every battle report showed the same story. Humanity was losing. When the tactical discussion began, Ji Woo noticed something in the patrol pattern. She hesitated, then raised her hand slightly. Hyen Woo saw her but continued talking. She waited. Finally, he sighed. "Yes, Lieutenant?" "Sir, the patrol route through Sector 9 follows the standard defensive grid, but the Valthrex have been changing their attack patterns. Based on the last 6 engagements, they are using hunting formations similar to pack predators. If we spread our ships in the current formation, we will be vulnerable to a 3-point encirclement." The room went silent. Then Woo Jin, the squadron's best pilot, laughed loudly. He was handsome and confident, the kind of person who had never failed at anything. "Listen to the expert. She has been here 3 days and already knows better than veterans who have been fighting for years. I am just suggesting we consider alternative formations based on the data," Ji Woo said quietly. She pulled up reports on her datapad. The Valthrex military structure is based on honor hunting traditions. They do not attack randomly. There are patterns if you study their cultural background. Tae Young shook his head. "This is real combat, not a classroom. The enemy does not follow textbooks." "Actually, they do," Ji Woo replied. "Every species follows patterns based on their evolution and culture. The Valthrex evolved as apex predators on a world with megafauna. Their entire military doctrine reflects persistence hunting strategies. If we understand that, we can predict their movements." Hyen Woo studied her for a moment. Something flickered in his eyes, but it passed quickly. "Your suggestions are noted, Lieutenant. We will follow the standard patrol pattern." Dismissed. The soldiers filed out. Ji Woo remained seated, reviewing the tactical data one more time. She ran simulations in her head. If the Valthrex attacked during this patrol cycle, the standard formation would be exactly where they wanted human ships to be. It was a trap waiting to happen. Dayun, one of the combat medics, paused near Ji Woo's seat. She was a few years older, with kind eyes and a gentle voice. Do not let them get to you. They are scared. Everyone is scared. They take it out on the new person. Ji Woo looked up and gave a small smile. I understand. Fear makes people cruel sometimes. You seem very calm for someone being treated badly. I have experienced worse than this, Ji Woo said softly. Her eyes went distant for a moment, seeing something far away. Something dark. Dayun wanted to ask more, but something in Ji Woo's expression stopped her. Instead, she nodded and left the room. Ji Woo remained alone in the briefing room. She pulled up classified files on her datapad, files that most soldiers did not have clearance to see. Intelligence reports on Valthrek's psychology, military structure, and combat behavior. She had spent 2 years studying these files, learning everything about the enemy, learning how they thought, how they fought, how they feared. Her personnel file had large sections marked as classified. If her new squad mates could read those sections, they would not be laughing. They would understand why the Admiralty had personally requested her transfer to this unit. They would know about Kepler Station, about what happened there, about what she had done, but those files would remain sealed. Some truths were too dangerous to share. That night, Ji Woo lay in her bunk, staring at the ceiling. The ship hummed around her with the sound of engines and life support systems. She could hear other soldiers laughing and talking in the common area. None of them had invited her to join. She did not mind. Solitude was comfortable for her now. She closed her eyes and saw the faces of the Valthrek's warriors from Kepler Station. All 53 of them. She remembered their names, or at least what she had called them in her mind. She remembered how they moved, how they communicated, how they died. The Admiralty had found her sitting in the dark, surrounded by alien corpses, covered in blood that was not her own. She had been humming quietly to herself, an old song her mother used to sing. The rescue team had been afraid to approach her at first. They thought she had gone insane. Maybe she had. Or maybe she had simply become something new. Something necessary. Tomorrow, the patrol would begin. Ji Woo knew the Valthreks would attack. She had seen this pattern before. The question was whether her new comrades would listen to her in time, whether they would survive their own arrogance. She hoped they would. Despite their mockery, despite their cruelty, she did not want to watch more humans die. She had seen enough death to fill a dozen lifetimes, but if they would not listen, then she would do what she had done before. She would adapt. She would survive. And she would teach the enemy why they should fear humanity. The alarm woke her at 0600 hours. Patrol day. Ji Woo dressed quickly and headed to the hangar. The other pilots were already checking their ships. Wu Jin was laughing about something. Tae Yang was running weapons diagnostics. None of them noticed Ji Woo running her own scans of the surrounding space. None of them saw the small anomalies in the sensor readings, the signs that something large was moving through hyperspace nearby. The Valthreks were coming, and they had no idea what was waiting for them. The patrol had been quiet for 3 hours. Ji Woo sat in her fighter cockpit, watching the sensor displays carefully. Her fingers moved across the controls, checking and rechecking the data. The rest of the squadron flew in standard formation ahead of her. She could hear them chatting on the open channel, relaxed and confident. They should not have been relaxed. The sensor readings showed small distortions in space, the kind that happened right before ships dropped out of hyperspace. Ji Woo had seen these patterns before. She knew what was coming. All units, this is Guardian 5, she said calmly into her comm. I am detecting hyperspace anomalies at coordinates 773 by 129. Multiple large signatures. Recommend we alter course immediately. Wu Jin's voice came back, annoyed. Guardian 5, your sensors are probably glitching. We have been through this sector 100 times. There is nothing there. The distortions are increasing, Ji Wu insisted. We have maybe 2 minutes before. The space in front of them exploded with light. 3 massive Valthrex dreadnoughts materialized from hyperspace, each one the size of a city block. Behind them came dozens of smaller fighter craft, spreading out like a swarm of angry insects. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The human pilots stared at the impossible sight in front of them. They had walked directly into an ambush dot, then chaos erupted. Alarm screamed. Haiyan Wu's voice cut through the panic. All units, break formation. Evasive maneuvers. Return fire. The Valthrex fighters dove at them. Energy weapons lit up the darkness of space. The first human ship took a direct hit and exploded in a ball of fire and debris. Taeyang's gunship spun wildly, its wing torn apart by alien weapons. His voice screamed across the com for help. Ji Wu's hands moved without thinking. Her fighter rolled and dove, avoiding the first wave of enemy fire. Her mind went cold and clear, the way it always did in combat. She saw the battle not as chaos, but as patterns, movements, predictable behaviors. The Valthrex were using a classic pincer formation, trying to surround the human ships and cut off escape routes. It was efficient and deadly. It was also exactly what she expected. All units follow Captain Haiyan Wu's orders and break to Vector 779er, the captain commanded. His voice was steady despite the panic around him. Ji Wu saw the problem immediately. Vector 7-7-9er would take them directly between 2 groups of enemy fighters. The Valthrex wanted them to go that way. They had left it open on purpose. It was a kill box, a trap designed to look like an escape route. Negative? Ji Wu's voice cut through the channel, sharp and clear. Captain, that vector is a trap. The Valthrex use 3-point encirclement tactics. They are hurting us. If we go to 7-7-9er, their heavy cruisers will cut us off from both sides. Lieutenant, maintain radio discipline. Haiyan Wu snapped back. We do not have time for theories. Another human ship exploded. Wu Jin's voice was panicked now, all his confidence gone. They are everywhere. We need to get out of here. Ji Wu pulled up a tactical display and transmitted it to the entire squadron. Look at their formation. See how the fighters are positioned? They are leaving Vector 779er open deliberately. But look at Vector 420. It appears blocked, but those are only light fighters. If we hit them hard and fast, we can break through. And more importantly, it will put us behind their command ship. Their heavy weapons are pointed the wrong way. How can you possibly know that? Taeyang shouted. His gunship was trailing smoke, limping through space. Because I have studied them, Ji Wu said simply. Because this is exactly what Valthrex hunting backs do. They funnel prey into a killing ground. But they always protect their alpha ship from behind. If we go where they do not expect, we have a chance. Silence on the channel. Enemy fire continued to tear through space. They had seconds to decide. Seconds before more people died. Haiyan Wu's voice came back, quieter now. Almost calm. All units. Follow Guardian 5's coordinates. Vector 420. Full speed. Break through their light fighters and target their command vessel. Captain, are you serious? Wu Jin protested. Do it now. Haiyan Wu roared. That is an order. The squadron turned as one. Ji Wu took point, her smaller fighter darting forward like an arrow. The Valthrex light fighters moved to intercept, but they were confused. This was not the direction the prey was supposed to run. Their formation hesitated, just for a moment. That moment was enough. Ji Woo fired everything she had, her weapons tearing into the nearest enemy fighter. It exploded in a burst of purple flame. The rest of the squadron followed, punching through the weakened line. Liu Jin whooped on the com. "It is working. We are through." "Not done yet," Ji Woo said calmly. "All units, target the command ship. Focus all fire on grid mark Epsilon 3. That is where their shield generators connect to the main hull. It is their weak point." "How do you know where their weak point is?" someone asked. Ji Woo did not answer. She simply opened fire. Her weapons struck exactly where she had indicated. Energy beams tore into the massive Valthrex command ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the rest of the squadron added their fire to hers. The Valthrex command ship had positioned itself for a battle on the other side. Its shields were oriented to protect against attacks from the front. Nobody had expected human ships to appear behind it. Nobody had expected them to know exactly where to aim. The shields flickered and failed. Human weapons punched through the hull. Secondary explosions rippled across the enormous ship. Its engines went dark. The great vessel began to drift, dead in space. The Valthrex fighters paused. Their formation broke apart. Without their command ship directing them, they fell into confusion. Some tried to regroup. Others fled into hyperspace. Hyan Wu's voice was full of disbelief. "All units, press the advantage. Take down as many as you can before they escape." The battle that should have been a massacre turned into a rout. The human squadron tore through the disorganized Valthrex forces. When it was over, 15 alien fighters were destroyed. Only 2 human ships had been lost. Ji Woo sat in her cockpit, breathing slowly. Her hands were steady on the controls. Around her, the rest of the squadron was celebrating. Their voices loud and excited on the com channel. But beneath the celebration, she could hear something else. Suspicion. Questions. How did she know? Someone whispered. "Lucky guess," Wu Jin said, but his voice was uncertain. "Nobody is that lucky," Taiyang replied quietly. The squadron limped back to base. In the hangar, pilots climbed out of their fighters and embraced each other. They had survived. Against all odds, they had won. Ji Woo climbed down from her cockpit alone. The other pilots watched her from a distance. They did not mock her anymore, but they did not approach her either. They looked at her like she was something strange. Something other. Hyan Wu walked over slowly. His expression was hard to read. "That was exceptional flying, Lieutenant. An exceptional tactical analysis. Thank you, sir. How did you know their formation?" He asked quietly. "How did you know where to hit them?" Ji Woo met his eyes. "I studied them, sir. I know how they think. Nobody learns that much from studying reports." She said nothing. Some truths could not be spoken aloud. "Not yet." Hyan Wu watched her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Get some rest, Lieutenant. Something tells me this is just the beginning." He walked away. Ji Woo stood alone in the hangar, surrounded by damaged fighters and spent ammunition. Yun, the medic, passed by carrying medical supplies. She paused and looked at Ji Woo with something like wonder in her eyes. "You saved us," Yun said softly. "I did what was necessary," Ji Woo replied. "How did you know all that? How did you know exactly what they would do?" Ji Woo's expression went distant, dark. "Because I have met them before, and they taught me everything I needed to know." She turned and walked toward her quarters, leaving Yun standing alone with a dozen unanswered questions. In her small room, Ji Woo sat on her bunk and pulled up classified files on her datapad. Intelligence reports on Valthrex tactics and psychology. reports she had written herself during her debriefing after Kepler Station. The Admiralty knew what she could do. That was why they had sent her here. Not to learn, but to teach. To show humanity how to fight an enemy that seemed unstoppable. Outside her door, she could hear soldiers talking in hushed voices. Talking about her. Wondering about her. Fearing her, just a little. She closed her eyes and waited for the next battle. It would come soon. The Valthrex did not forget defeats. They would return. And when they did, she would be ready. 3 weeks passed after the ambush. The squadron earned a brief shore leave on Fortress Haven, a massive military station orbiting a gas giant. The hallways were crowded with soldiers from different units, all trying to forget the war for a few days. Ji Woo sat alone in a corner of the officers' lounge. She had a small table to herself with a datapad displaying intelligence reports. Around her, other soldiers laughed and drank and told stories. Nobody sat near her. They watched her from a distance, whispering to each other when they thought she could not hear. She had saved their lives, but that did not make them comfortable around her. If anything, it made them more nervous. They did not understand how she knew what she knew. And people feared what they did not understand. Diane approached carrying 2 cups of coffee. She set one down in front of Ji Woo and sat across from her without asking permission. "You should not sit alone all the time," she said gently. "I am used to it," Ji Woo replied, not looking up from her datapad. "People are talking about you. People always talk." Dayun leaned forward and lowered her voice. "They are saying strange things. Some think you have special abilities. Others think you are somehow connected to the Valthrex. That you think like them because you are compromised." Finally, Ji Woo looked up. Her eyes were calm and dark. "And what do you think?" "I think you saved lives. I think you are incredibly smart. And I think you are carrying something heavy that nobody else can see." Dayun paused. "I also think there is something in your past that explains everything. Something the military does not want people to know about." Ji Woo's expression did not change. "Why do you think that?" "Because I pulled your file. The official one that everyone can see. It is almost empty. Just your academy records and assignment history. But there is a 2-year gap. And there is a reference to something called the Kepler Station Incident, marked as classified." Dayun watched Ji Woo carefully. "It took me 3 days and some creative hacking, but I found the full report, or at least parts of it." Ji Woo's hands tightened slightly on her datapad. "You should not have done that." "Maybe not, but I did." Dayun's voice was soft but determined. 2 years ago, you were assigned to Kepler Station as a junior tactical officer. It was a small research outpost, barely 50 people. The Valthrex attacked. It should have been a quick raid, in and out. But something went wrong with their boarding action. "Stop," Ji Woo said quietly. Dayun continued anyway. "The station went dark. No communications for 6 weeks. Command thought everyone was dead. They sent a special forces team to recover bodies and salvage equipment. But when they arrived, they found something impossible. Please stop. They found you, alive, alone, surrounded by 53 dead Valthrex soldiers." Dayun's eyes were wide. The report said the station looked like a battlefield. Traps everywhere. Improvised weapons. Evidence of a long-term guerrilla campaign. The Valthrex had not just raided the station. They had tried to hold it. And you had fought them for 6 weeks. By yourself. Ji Woo closed her datapad slowly. She looked at Dayun with an expression that was both empty and full of terrible knowledge. "You read the report. Then you know what happened to the other 49 humans who were stationed there. The report said the Valthrex killed them in the first hour of the attack. They did. Ji Woo's voice was flat, emotionless. I watched them die. I was in a maintenance tunnel when the boarding began. I saw everything through security cameras. My friends, my commanding officers, people I ate breakfast with that morning. The Valthrex killed them quickly and efficiently. They were securing the station for some kind of research operation. Dayun waited. Ji Woo continued speaking, her voice distant, as if she was describing something that happened to someone else. I should have died too. I should have fought them, or surrendered, or done something brave and stupid. But I did not. I hid. I crawled through the maintenance tunnels and hid like a frightened animal. She paused. The Valthrex searched the station for survivors. They found none. They thought they had killed everyone. So they settled in and started their work. What did you do? At first, nothing. I hid in the walls and tried not to make noise. I found emergency rations in a storage compartment. I drank water from the recycling system. I thought rescue would come in a few days. But days turned into a week. Then 2 weeks. I realized nobody was coming. Nobody knew I was alive. Ji Woo's eyes focused on something far away, something dark and terrible. So I started watching them. The Valthrex soldiers. I learned their routines, their patrol patterns, their rank structure. I listened to them talk through the station speakers. Their language is complex, but it follows logical rules. After 2 weeks, I could understand basic commands. After 3 weeks, I understood conversations. You learned their language while hiding in the walls? I had nothing else to do, and I needed to understand them if I was going to kill them. Ji Woo said this calmly, as if discussing the weather. I learned they were waiting for a research team. They had specific orders not to damage certain equipment. They were guards, essentially. But they were also warriors, proud, confident. They never imagined a single human could threaten them. Pyun sat very still, listening. I started small. I tampered with their equipment, made their sensors give false readings, contaminated their food supplies. Little things, annoying things. They thought it was equipment malfunctions at first. But then I started taking their weapons, stealing supplies, leaving messages in their language, telling them they were going to die. You psychologically tortured them. Yes, no hesitation, no shame. I wanted them afraid. Fear makes people stupid, makes them careless. After 4 weeks, they stopped patrolling alone. They moved in groups. They checked every shadow. They were seeing ghosts. When did you start killing them? Ji Woo was quiet for a moment. Week 5. I set a trap in one of the storage bays. Explosives wired to a door mechanism. 3 of them died instantly. After that, it became a war. They knew I was there. They hunted me actively. But I had advantages. I knew every tunnel, every access point, every system in that station. And I had learned to think like they thought. The report said you killed 53 of them. 53 confirmed. There might have been more in the sections that were vented to space. Ji Woo's voice remained emotionless. I used traps, improvised weapons, environmental hazards. I hacked their own security systems and turned them against the Valthrex. I learned their honor codes and used those against them too. They have rules about combat. I had no rules. The rescue team found you sitting in the command center, covered in blood. Yes, the last group of Valthrex had finally cornered me there. We fought for 12 hours, hand to hand. I was injured. They were injured. But I had one advantage they did not expect. What advantage? I did not want to survive. I just wanted to take as many of them with me as possible. They were warriors who wanted glory. I was a ghost who wanted revenge. In the end, Desperation beats honor every time. Ji Woo looked directly at Dayun. When the rescue team arrived, the Valthrex were not trying to kill me anymore. They were trying to contain me, trap me. They had started fortifying their positions against me, instead of hunting me. I was the predator. They were the prey. They were afraid. Dayun was silent for a long time. Finally, she spoke quietly. The Admiralty knows all this. Of course. I spent 3 months in debriefing. I told them everything I learned. Every detail about Valthrex psychology, tactics, culture, language. I gave them a roadmap for fighting an enemy nobody understood. Ji Woo's expression hardened. And then they classified everything. Sealed the files. Because they did not want the public to know what I had become. What I had to become to survive. What did you become? Ji Woo smiled, but it was a terrible smile. Cold and sharp. Something that frightens them more than the aliens do. Someone who can think like the enemy. Who can become the enemy? Who can take everything that makes them strong, can turn it into weakness? She leaned forward. That is why they sent me to the 7th Fleet, not to learn from veterans, but to teach them, to show them how to fight a war we are losing. Before Dayun could respond, alarms began shrieking throughout the station. Red lights flashed. A voice over the intercom announced emergency battle stations. The Valthrex had returned, and this time they had brought an entire battle fleet. Ji Woo stood slowly, her face calm despite the chaos erupting around them. Other soldiers were running for their stations, panicked and shouting. Dayun grabbed Ji Woo's arm. Are you going to be okay? Ji Woo looked at her with those dark, knowing eyes. I am always okay. I survived 6 weeks alone with 53 Valthrex warriors. This is just another Tuesday for me. She pulled her arm free gently. But you should get to your medical station. There will be wounded soon. Many wounded. Will we survive this? Ji Woo walked toward the door, then paused and looked back. That depends. Are they willing to listen to me this time? Or will their pride kill them? She disappeared into the corridor. Heading toward the command center. Dayun stood alone in the lounge, surrounded by abandoned drinks and dropped belongings. Through the windows, she could see enemy ships appearing from hyperspace. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. And somewhere in the station, a small woman who had survived the impossible was already planning how to do it again. Not because she was fearless, but because fear had stopped meaning anything to her a long time ago. The command center was chaos. Officers shouted over each other. Tactical displays showed 20 Valthrex warships surrounding Fortress Haven. Against them, humanity had only 8 defending vessels. The numbers were impossible. This was not a battle. This was an execution. Admiral Biora stood at the central console, her face grim. She was a veteran of 30 years, with gray hair pulled back tight and eyes that had seen too many defeats. Begin evacuation protocols. Get the civilians off this station. Admiral, the transports will never make it through that blockade, someone protested. Then we die buying them time, Biora replied coldly. Ji Woo entered the command center quietly. Nobody noticed her at first. She moved to an auxiliary station and began pulling up data. Sensor readings. Ship positions. Fleet compositions. Her mind worked through the information like a computer processing code. Hyen Woo saw her and walked over. Lieutenant, you should not be here. This is flag officer territory. With respect, sir, I need to be exactly here. Ji Woo's fingers flew across the console. We can win this. Several officers nearby heard that and turned to stare at her. One of them, a commander named Juno, laughed bitterly. Win? Look at the numbers, Lieutenant. We are outnumbered 3-1. outgunned 5-1. The best we can hope for is to delay them. We cannot win a straight fight, Yi-Wu agreed. So we do not fight straight. We fight smart. Admiral Bai-Ora walked over, her expression skeptical but interested. You are the tactical officer from the 7th Fleet, the one who predicted that ambush. Yes, Admiral? You have a plan? Yes, Admiral. Ji-Woo pulled up a holographic display of the gas giant below them. We use the planet. The Valthrex have superior ships in open space. But in the upper atmosphere of a gas giant, mass and size become disadvantages. Their heavy cruisers will have reduced maneuverability. Our smaller ships will be able to outmaneuver them. Commander Junho shook his head. The atmospheric pressure at that depth would crush our ships in minutes. It is suicide. Not if we are fast. I have run the calculations. We can survive 47 seconds at the depth I am suggesting. That is enough time to hit them and get out. 47 seconds? Junho looked at her like she was insane. You want to bet all our lives on 47 seconds of math? I want to bet our lives on the enemy, thinking like I know they think, Ji-Woo replied calmly. She turned to the Admiral. The Valthrex are methodical. They follow doctrine. Their fleet formation right now is textbook standard siege positioning. They expect us to either fight from the station or try to run. They are not prepared for us to dive into a gas giant. Admiral Bai-Ora studied the tactical display. Even if we survive the dive, how does that help us? We would just be delaying the inevitable. No, Admiral. We would be separating their fleet. Look at their formation. The heavy cruisers are in front, blocking escape routes. The carriers are in the rear, protected. If we feint a retreat toward the gas giant, their heavy cruisers will pursue. They have to. It is their doctrine. But they cannot pursue as deep as our ships can go. And while they are trying to follow us into the atmosphere, we strike from below. Hit their vulnerable underbellies where their shields are weakest. Silence in the command center. Officers exchanged glances. The plan was insane, but they were already facing certain death. Insane was starting to look reasonable. Hyan-Woo spoke up. I have seen her tactical predictions work before. She knows the enemy better than anyone I have met. Admiral Bai-Ora looked at Ji-Woo for a long moment. How old are you, Lieutenant? 26, Admiral. And you have only been in active service for 3 years. Yet you speak with absolute certainty about enemy behavior. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. Why should I trust your judgment over officers with decades of experience? Ji-Woo met her gaze without flinching. Because those officers learned to fight from textbooks and simulations. I learned by spending 6 weeks alone on Kepler Station with 53 Valthrex warriors. They taught me everything I needed to know, and I killed them all. The command center went very quiet. Several officers had heard rumors about Kepler Station. Now they were looking at Ji-Woo with new eyes, with understanding, and a little fear. Admiral Bai-Ora nodded slowly. Very well, we do this your way. All ships, prepare for combat dive. We follow Lieutenant Ji-Woo's tactical plan. The orders went out. Pilots ran to their ships. The station's defensive weapons charged up. Ji-Woo stood at the tactical console, coordinating movements. Her voice was calm and precise, giving instructions to ships and squadrons. The 8 human vessels broke formation and dove toward the gas giant. As predicted, the Valthrex fleet moved to intercept. Their heavy cruisers accelerated forward, thinking the humans were trying to escape around the planet. They are taking the bait, Hyan-Woo reported from his fighter. Heavy cruisers are pursuing. Good, Ji-Woo said. All ships, begin atmospheric entry on my mark. Remember, you have 47 seconds from depth marker to return marker. Not 48, 47. The human ships plunged into the gas giant's atmosphere. The exterior screens showed swirling clouds of orange and red. The ships began to shake violently. Pressure warnings flashed. Temperature gauges climbed. The Valthrex heavy cruisers followed, but they slowed as they entered the thicker atmosphere. Their massive hulls struggled against the resistance. They were designed for space combat, not atmospheric maneuvers. 30 seconds to strike depth, Ji-Woo announced. Prepare all weapons. The ships dove deeper. The pressure was crushing now. Hull plates groaned. Warning alarms screamed. Some pilots were panicking, asking permission to abort. Ji-Woo kept her voice steady. Hold course. Trust the numbers. At exactly 42 seconds, Ji-Woo gave the command. All ships, level off and strike upward. Now. The human fleet leveled off and opened fire straight up. They were directly beneath the Valthrex heavy cruisers. The enemy ships had their shields oriented to protect against attacks from above and the sides. Nobody had expected an attack from below. From inside a gas giant's atmosphere, human weapons tore into unprotected hull sections. 4 Valthrex cruisers took massive damage in the first salvo. One exploded completely. Another began falling deeper into the atmosphere, its engines failing. All ships climb, climb, climb. Ji-Woo ordered. Get above pressure depth. The human vessels shot upward, racing against time and physics. 47 seconds, 48, 49. They broke through into thinner atmosphere, their hulls scorched but intact. Behind them, the Valthrex fleet was in chaos. Their heavy cruisers were damaged and scattered. Their formation had broken apart. And then something unexpected happened. A message came through on the Valthrex command frequency. Ji-Woo had been monitoring their communications, having learned their language on Kepler Station. The message was not a tactical order. It was a single word, spoken with something that sounded like dread. HFY. Ji-Woo went very still. Hyen-Woo noticed. What is it? What did they say? They said a name, Ji-Woo replied quietly. My name. Or rather, the name they have given me. What does it mean? Whirlwind. Or phantom wind. Something that strikes from unexpected directions and cannot be caught. Ji-Woo listened to more Valthrex communications. They have recognized my tactical signature. Somehow, word spread through their military about Kepler Station, about the human who killed their warriors using their own methods against them. On the Valthrex command channel, more voices were speaking now. Ji-Woo translated quietly. They are arguing. Some want to continue the attack. Others are saying they should retreat. They are calling me a demon, a ghost. They are afraid. Admiral Baror heard this. They are retreating? We bloodied them, but they still have superior numbers. Numbers do not matter if they do not believe they can win, Ji-Woo said. The Valthrex are warriors, but their culture is built on honor and glory. There is no honor in dying to a ghost. No glory in being outsmarted by prey. The Valthrex fleet began to pull back. Not all at once, but in groups. First the damaged cruisers. Then the light fighters. Within an hour, the entire enemy fleet had withdrawn into hyperspace. The command center erupted in cheers. Officers embraced each other. Admiral Bio-Ra allowed herself a small smile. Against all odds, they had won, but Ji-Woo did not celebrate. She stood at her console, listening to the final Valthrex transmissions. They were still speaking her name. Hwai Ryo, the whirlwind. The phantom Wu Jin approached her, his expression complex. You saved us again. I do not know how you do it. I do it by understanding them better than they understand themselves, Hwai replied. They were afraid of you. I heard it in their voices, even though I do not speak their language. They were afraid of one small human woman. Ji Woo finally looked at him. Good. Fear is the most useful weapon in any war. If the enemy thinks you are a ghost, you become a ghost. If they think you are a demon, you become a demon. You become whatever they fear most. Is that what you learned on Kepler Station? That is what Kepler Station made me, Ji Woo said softly. And now the Valthrex know. Now they will tell stories about the human called HFY. And those stories will do more damage than any weapon we have. 3 months passed. The war changed. The Valthrex Empire, which had been steadily conquering human space for 3 years, suddenly found itself losing battle after battle. Not because humanity had discovered new weapons, not because reinforcements had arrived, but because one small woman had taught humanity how to think. Admiral Bayo-Ra promoted Ji Woo to captain and gave her command of a tactical planning division. Officers from across the fleet came to learn from her. She taught them what she had learned in Blood and Darkness on Kepler Station. She taught them to see patterns, to understand alien psychology, to use fear as a weapon. Most importantly, she taught them that size and strength meant nothing compared to adaptability and intelligence. The Valthrex began changing their own tactics in response. They became more cautious, more paranoid. They checked every shadow. They second-guessed every decision, because they never knew if the human called HFY was planning their next defeat. Stories spread through the Valthrex military. Some said HFY was a demon who could not be killed. Others claimed she was a ghost who appeared from nowhere. A few insisted she was not one person but many, because how could a single human cause so much damage? The truth was simpler and more terrifying. Ji Woo was just a human who had learned to be better at their own game than they were, and she had taught other humans to do the same. On a cold morning in November, Ji Woo stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable. Today was the day the Valthrex Empire would officially surrender. A delegation was coming to sign peace terms. The war was over. Admiral Bayo-Ra stood beside her, wearing full dress uniform. You should be proud, Captain. You changed the course of this war. Historians will write about you for centuries. I did what was necessary, Ji Woo replied. She wore her own dress uniform, with medals she had never asked for pinned to her chest. She looked uncomfortable in the formal clothing. The Valthrex specifically requested that you be present at the surrender ceremony. They want to see HFY with their own eyes. Ji Woo nodded. She had expected this. The Valthrex were warriors. They needed to see the enemy who had defeated them. It was part of their honor culture. The Valthrex delegation arrived in a small transport ship. 6 of them, all enormous and imposing in their ceremonial armor. They were led by a war chief named Ral Keth, one of their most respected commanders. He was old by Valthrex standards, with scars covering his forearms and a face that had seen countless battles. The ceremony was formal and brief. Papers were signed. Terms were agreed upon. The war was officially over. But throughout the ceremony, Ral Keth kept looking at Ji Woo. His eyes held something complex: respect, curiosity, and yes, fear. When the formal ceremony ended, Ral Keth approached Ji Woo directly. His translator device spoke in perfect English. You are HFY, the Ghost Warrior. I am Captain Ji Woo of the United Earth Defense Force, she replied calmly. You are the one who survived Kepler Station, who killed 53 of our finest warriors. I am. Ral Keth studied her. She was so small compared to him. He was 8 feet of armored muscle. She barely reached his chest. And yet, he was the one who seemed unsure. We have been warriors for 1,000 years, Ral Keth said slowly. We have conquered 17 species. We believed we were unstoppable. Then we met your kind. And we met you. What is your point? Ji Woo asked. My point is that we were wrong. We judged humanity by your size, by your fragile bodies, by your short history. We thought you were weak. He gestured with one of his 4 arms. You taught us that we do not understand what strength means. You taught us that the most dangerous prey is the one that learns to think like a predator. Ji Woo said nothing. She simply watched him with those dark, knowing eyes. Ral Keth continued. On Kepler Station, you did something no Valthrex warrior could have done. You survived alone against impossible odds. You learned our language, our culture, our weaknesses. And you used all of it against us. You fought without honor, without mercy, without following any rules we understood. He paused. We call that monstrous. But perhaps we were wrong about that too. Perhaps that is simply what humans do when you push them hard enough. You become whatever you need to become to survive. That is correct, Ji Woo said simply. Humanity does not have your strength or your technology. But we have something you do not. We can adapt. We can change. We can become the thing you fear most. And we will never stop learning, never stop evolving, never stop finding new ways to fight. That is why we surrendered, Ralketh admitted. Not because you beat us in battle, but because we realized we could never truly defeat you. Every time we thought we understood human tactics, you changed. Every time we adapted, you adapted faster. And always, there was Wai Ryo, peering where we did not expect, striking where we were weakest, turning our own strengths into weaknesses. He reached into his armor and pulled out something small, a data chip. He held it out to Ji Woo. This is for you. It contains recordings from our military academies. After our defeats began, we changed our entire training program. We now teach our young warriors about humanity, about adaptation and creativity, about thinking beyond rigid doctrine. He paused. We teach them about you, about the phantom who taught us that size and strength are illusions, that the real battle is always in the mind. Ji Woo took the data chip. You are teaching your warriors to be afraid of us. No, we are teaching them to respect you, to never underestimate you again, to understand that humanity is not weak, just different. And different can be far more dangerous than strong. The Valthrex delegation left shortly after. Ji Woo stood at the viewport, watching their ship disappear into hyperspace. Admiral Bo-Ra joined her. That was quite the conversation, the Admiral said. He was honest. I respect that. What will you do now, Captain? The war is over. You are a hero. You can have any assignment you want. Ji Woo was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke softly. The war with the Valthrex is over. But there are other empires out there. Other species who think humanity is weak because we are young, because we are small, because we do not look like warriors. You want to teach them the same lesson. I want to make sure humanity survives, and we will not survive by being nice or fair or honorable. We will survive by being smart, by being adaptable, by being willing to become whatever we need to be. Ji Woo turned to face the Admiral. I want to train a new division, officers who can think like the enemy, who can fight without following rules, who can turn any weakness into strength. Admiral Bo-Ra smiled slightly. You want to create more ghosts. I want to create survivors, people who will do what is necessary, no matter how difficult. People who understand that in a galaxy full of predators, humanity needs to be the smartest predator of all. Several weeks later, Ji Woo stood in front of a classroom of young officers. They were the best and brightest from the academy. They looked at her with a mixture of awe and nervousness. They had all heard the stories. My name is Captain Ji Woo, she began, "but the Valthrex call me Huayrayo, the Whirlwind, the Phantom. They call me this because I taught them to be afraid, not of human weapons or human ships, but of human minds." She pulled up a holographic display showing battle footage. "For the next 6 months, I am going to teach you how to fight like I fight, how to think like the enemy thinks, how to find weaknesses where others see only strength. Some of you will find this training disturbing. Some will question the methods. Some will wonder if what we are doing is right." She paused and looked at each of them. "And you should question it. You should struggle with it. Because what I am teaching you is how to become something other than what you were. How to look at any enemy, no matter how strong, and find a way to make them bleed." One young officer, a woman named Min Seo, raised her hand. "Captain, is it true that you spent 6 weeks alone fighting Valthrex warriors on Kepler Station?" "Yes. How did you survive?" Ji Woo smiled, but it was not a warm smile. "I survived by understanding something fundamental about war. The enemy expects you to think a certain way, to fight a certain way, to follow certain rules. The moment you abandon those expectations, you become unpredictable. And unpredictable is the most dangerous thing you can be." Another officer, a young man named Taewoo, spoke up. "But the Valthrex are warriors. They have honor codes. Doesn't that make them predictable?" "Exactly. Every strength is also a weakness. The Valthrex honor code makes them strong in traditional combat. But it also makes them vulnerable to tactics they consider dishonorable. They follow patterns based on their culture. If you understand their culture, you can predict their moves. And if you can predict them, you can beat them." She continued teaching, showing them examples, running simulations, pushing them to think differently. Some students thrived. Others struggled. But all of them learned. In the evenings, Ji Woo would return to her quarters and review reports. The galaxy was a dangerous place. There were dozens of species. Many of them were older and more advanced than humanity. Some were beginning to look at human space with interest, with hunger. But Ji Woo was not afraid. She had learned something important on Kepler Station. She had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not weapons or courage or determination. It was the ability to learn, to adapt, to become whatever was necessary to survive. The Valthrex had thought humans were weak. They had learned differently. Now their military academies taught courses about human tactics, about Huayrayo, the phantom warrior who changed the war. Other species would learn the same lesson. Some would learn it through diplomacy. Others would learn it the hard way, but they would all learn. Because humanity was not going anywhere. Not now. Not ever. Ji Woo looked out her viewport at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Valthrex were rebuilding. Somewhere, other empires were watching and planning. And somewhere, her name was being spoken in alien languages. Sometimes with respect. Sometimes with fear. Always with understanding that humanity was not to be. Underestimated again. Her comrades had once mocked her, called her weak, questioned her abilities. Now they followed her without hesitation. Now they learned from her. Now they were becoming what she had become. But the enemy? The enemy whispered her name in the darkness. They told stories about Huayrayo, the human who thought like them, but fought like something else entirely. They had learned that size does not matter. That strength is not enough. That humanity, despite being small and young and fragile, was the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Because humanity never stopped learning, never stopped adapting, never stopped becoming whatever was necessary to win. And that was the lesson Ji Woo had taught them all. The lesson written in blood and survival. The lesson that would echo through the galaxy for generations. Humanity was here. And humanity was not prey. We were the whirlwind. The phantom. The thing you only understood when it was too late. That was HFY. That was what it meant to be human. Not the strongest, not the biggest, but the one you should never, ever underestimate.